Welcome back to the Personal Process Podcast. This is Parham. I'm joined with my friend Joseph, and we talking about failure. Before we do, let's hit this intro.
Podcasting worldwide from Vancouver, Canada. Welcome back to the Personal Process Podcast. The show that takes you through the growth, hardship, self-discovery, lessons, and stories of individuals who achieved success in their own personal path. Trust the process.
So, welcome back to the Personal Process Podcast, the show where we share stories, we share insights, we share lessons from individuals' personal paths in life so you can get the secrets without having to go through the hard treks that a lot of individuals have today. So today we have my good friend Joseph, and I have to switch my hands over because we're on a camera. But so we're going to be talking about failure. And there's a kind of a little play on words from we talking about practice by the legendary Iverson wearing the old basketball jersey to represent. And yeah, man. So Joseph, why is failure an important thing for you, and why do you think we should even start this podcast and not end it right away?
Right. I think, first of all, I should say thank you for having me again. I appreciate. But I should also say, I noticed in the intro they say persons who have, what does it say? Persons who have what?
Which one are you talking about? The video intro?
Yeah, the video intro. It says persons who have achieved success in their own, right?
In their own path, yeah.
In their own path. Well, I don't know if I'm one of those. I've been one individual who has failed numerous times, so it's good that I'm talking about it today. I'm not. I've had some success here and there, but I've mostly been a failure. So yeah,
mostly a failure coming from the guy who represented his university class at convocation. Come on, get out of here! Oh, there goes the microphone. See, even my microphone's saying "get out of here, bro." You gotta watch out. Oh man. But no, man, it's well deserved here. And, like everyone's on their personal journey. No one's finished yet. We're still on the path to success. And, I think one big part, regardless of what path you do decide to go to in life, is getting content with failure, because, it's such a big part of the game. And, so many people are just like, oh, I got this beautiful Lamborghini. Look at me in my garage. Shout out Ty Lopez. But it takes some time to get there. It's not just flipping a dice and making that money. It's you got to go through the trenches. You got to go, and it's not even just failure in like a work career path, right? It's failure in your own belief systems, right? I mean, let's see. Another reason why I wore this is because when I was playing basketball, I was never the top player on my team. Although rebounds definitely got that check mark for that one, but the one thing that I had was hustle. And when other players, for example, we get stuffed in basketball, which is the action of someone coming up and blocking your shot when you're going up. And, this is something that everyone stays like, oh, and, as a kid, it's like, oh, damn, I messed that up. A lot of my teammates, they would literally crumble down into like a child's position. And, just like, oh. But I was like one of the only people on my team. When that happened to me, man, like I just hustled back. And, I hustled back and I went to block that shot, stuff the other guy, and get the ball back. Like my mission after the failure, it wasn't like, man, I got to sit here and sulk. But it was, what do I got to do to make up this failure and get it better? And over time, what ended up happening is I may have got stuffed, but that ball, the other end, was not uncontested. I was sprinting, as my former coach said, a madman, and I hustled and got that ball. But, I feel like a lot of people don't see this side of life, or they are so, what's that word, apprehensive about failure. They don't want to go through it. They just want the success. And to be honest, like, you gotta thank life for those failures, because they can inspire you to figure out who you really are as a person, what you really value. And it gives you a very great opportunity to reflect and kind of understand what is important to you and give you that motivation to pursue things in your own path. So that's my little spiel of why this is important for me, man. But like, what about you? Why is failure a topic that we were going to talk about today? And yeah.
Right. I didn't answer the first question, but thanks for sharing that experience. And I think sports has got a kind of a great analogy of failure and the process of getting to the other side, of the opposite of failure. But I think why it is important to talk about failure, because it's part of the process, and
we gotta
it's
trust
also an element of.
And it's we gotta trust it, because he said it's part of the process, because we gotta trust the process.
Exactly.
And it's also what? Sorry.
It's also an element of grounding. It grounds you. It helps you keep your head low. That way, you're always reminded that you did not do this alone, or there were obstacles along the way. And for me, failure has been that one thing among many other things that have kept me grounded in humility, grounded in grace, and kind of always seeing myself not better than the other person, because failure does teach you that. The other reason why failure is important, one person put it this way, and I was actually talking to a couple of friends, and one of the friends said, the view on the mountain is beautiful, but fruits grow in the valley. So while a lot of people see the beauty of the mountain, or you hike up and you get up on top of the mountain and you see this beautiful view, a lot of work, a lot of fruits, a lot of personal work, a lot of challenge of belief, as you said, a lot of personal growth happens in the valley and not on the mountain.
Absolutely. And
yeah,
did you want to add anything else?
Now I was going to add that failure has been part of my life, and I'm a Christian, and one of the things that I see in the good book is how God also uses failure, and we know him as a God of process. Failure is part of his way of kind of making you trust his way and not your way. So if you look through the major names, from Joseph in Egypt to a lot of individuals, they had to go through their own failure. It's almost like a prerequisite, for making it.
I definitely hear you. And, Joseph, when you're mentioning the whole going on the mountain, you see the whole view and, you feel like you're successful and all that. And then you gave the valley example where all the food's grown and where the people are. It took me a while to actually grab that. And that's why I was kind of like, what's going on? But, it's actually a very lovely example. It's the first time I've actually heard that, but it's very true. And it's exactly like that in life, because, when you're in the valley, it kind of seems like where all the people are at. But that is the key. Where all the people are at this point of failure where they don't know themselves, where they have an opportunity to get the fruits, but the fruits are in trees, bananas. It's a climb, and sometimes you might not know what to do. Maybe you don't know how to get there. Maybe you can get the help of someone to help lift you up. Maybe you can invent something to help you get there. And I think that's a similar way of how failure is. Through this point of lowness, we can't see the huge valley of where we are and how amazing the landscape we're in right now. But when we are in that moment, when we have the opportunity to reflect and we have an ability to get these rich fruits, and these rich fruits are kind of a metaphor that I'm using for life attributes, for reflection, for knowing ourselves, our powers. And I don't say that, like you're going to fly through a wall like a Kool-Aid man. Oh, yeah. I think I used that joke one time too many, but I'm still going to use it. But, it's more realizing who you are as a person. And that is such an incredible trait that I think a lot of people just don't get to go through, because they just want to focus on being on top of that mountain, and they always compare themselves in that valley. Then they're like, oh, man, that mountain, I'm never going to get up there. I'm a failure. But they have that fruit is right in front of them. It's so close. They just need to use this opportunity to reflect and get there, man. And yeah, the stories about the Christianity thing, the Christianity Bible that you're mentioning from Joseph of Egypt. I was going to mention from Joseph of Egypt to the follower Joseph of Canada, but it's very interesting because the biblical text has a lot of amazing stories, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dr. Jordan Peterson. He was a previous professor at the University of Toronto in the psychology department, and a lot of his teachings in psychology actually give reference to the Bible. And there was actually a very recent podcast where Jordan Peterson, he has his own podcast now, he was interviewing an individual who was, what's the individual who leads the church?
Individual, a pastor, or
I think so. Yeah, it was a very famous pastor, and they're having conversation on how his work has actually brought a lot of people into Christianity. So, because I think this recent time, just with the advent of science, a lot of people have been given up on religion, and it's not so much one or the other that I think a lot of people were saying in his talks. It was more so the fact that both can coexist with one another, because science is good for the things that it's discovered. But what about the things that we haven't discovered yet? Should we just live in an eternal angst, an eternal unknown? I mean, I think both have merit, and regardless of religious views, I don't know. I think it's a cool thing to talk about. And yeah, I think just relating that to our topic today, it's pretty good. But I unloaded a lot for you, Joseph. So tell me, man, what are you thinking?
Now, I have I was thinking about today's podcast, and I've gone through, and this weekend has been so much of reflection on what I've gone through. I should learn to complete my sentences.
Personal process, bro. You got it.
This week has been a lot of reflection on what it really means to fail, what it means to win. But most importantly, when you cannot talk about failure and fail to talk about seasons.
There's a good one.
Seasons. We are all going through our own seasons as a human race, as a species. Birds have seasons, trees have seasons. Everything, it's almost like a natural law to have seasons. And unfortunately, because of our human perception that we are kind of, majestic and we have control over everything, we see this season as failure. But I see failure as a process of going through seasons. So I don't think birds will think of this will think about their hardships as failure. They know that the winter has to come. It's not good, but they have to go through it, and it has its own benefits for them. The summer comes, and they embrace that. The spring comes, they embrace that. So, and I think this year or the past 2 years have kind of given us a glimpse of that we cannot, as a human race, eliminate the factor of seasons in the natural flow of life. We cannot. Seasons are what makes us part of the human, the life scheme. We cannot take ourselves out of this life system. We are part of the ecosystem. And so I would, if you allow me, I would even use the synonym seasons for failure.
Seasons for failure.
Because
wow.
Because this we word it as failure because again, of our maybe ego as a human race, an idea that we are more. Of course, we are more. We have a better brain. We have, but that perception has also pushed us toward our own extinction and the extinction of life itself. But I won't get too far from the topic. I just wanted to bring that back in there, that we have to see failure in a different light, that maybe what we call failure is what is naturally the factor that makes us humans, that makes us have life, that it does not make us any smaller. It actually makes us enjoy that we are part of this thing called life. And if we embrace that, then I think how people view failure will change. That seasons come. There is no season meant to stay.
Absolutely.
Winter comes, and the winter weather is very brutal on animals. And I think we looked at a tree sometime, right? When a tree during the winter season, the tree sheds all its leaves. But it's not, we look at it as this thing is just a trunk now. It's lost, it's dead, But in itself, it knows that, look, this is just a season, but the spring is coming. The summer is coming. But for us, because we have this human eyes, and that we kind of have attached meaning to things. When you look at when you look at a tree without leaves, you see it as lifeless, And it's the same way we look at ourselves. That when we are not bearing fruits, when we are not bearing anything for us to show for it, we deem ourselves as lifeless. We deem ourselves as, I have nothing to offer.
Right,
but a tree will tell us different. That is actually the time of growth. That is a time of, self-sufficiency. That's the time of cutting back a lot of energy, of trimming off, so that you can bloom when the season is right.
You got some amazing points there, Joseph. And the analogy to seasons, I agree for the most part.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I think I agree for the majority. The only thing I would say is some people's seasons are different in a way where they'd have a lot of years of winter, but man, at the end of it, they got that summer season all time round. And, other people's have different mixes into it. Maybe some people have more winter at the start, then they have summer. But I do agree there is some sort of flow in this. And some people go around in circles. They have ups, they have downs. They have ups, they have downs, just like a regular season would be. And this kind of brought me to a notion. And I was Googling this when you were talking. So I'm like, man, what was that word in Latin? And the word was amor fati in Latin, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly, but it is to love of one's faith, to love your fate. And that is powerful.
What is that?
It's called amor fati. It's a Latin expression where essentially it just means to love your fate, love everything that comes towards you in life, whether it is the winter where it's a hard season. And I love the way that you use self-sufficiency in that time, because that kind of like intrigued a light bulb. I'm like, that's very true. Like it's the temperature is not doing too well for it. Its way of nutrients is pretty low, and very minimal interaction with anything else during that time. But it's self-sufficiency, and I think that's something that is very vital to one person's development, because especially when we're kids, we're always like, hey, we need to hang out with these people. Hey, we need to hang out with these people. If I lose this person, my life's going to be over. But through these times of hardship where we get kicked off the figurative hill, you have an opportunity to be alone. And when you're kicked off this hill, you're in a point of unknown. You're in that deep valley, that forest, which, although has a lot of people there, no one can see each other. And they are there to uncover the fruits of their labor or be stationed there.
with no one knowing. And that is a shame, because a lot of people want your help. If you know how to get that, man, I got to fix this mic. If you know how to get that banana, if you got the secrets to success in the banana realm, a lot of people want to know how to get that banana. And if you figured it out, you're really doing a disservice by not helping people do the same,
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a very important thing. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, that's the thing about failure. If you got to anyone who has really failed, anyone who has been through life, I won't say I have been. I've had my own share, but I've been also blessed in so many ways, and I'm grateful. But if you really got to people who have failed significantly, and life has not been, I don't want to romanticize also failure. It's not a good idea because it's framed around a lot of structural factors. Yep. But if you've been around people who have failed, there's also something beautiful about them, that they understand each other. They extend they compassion to them comes easier than someone who has never failed. And I'm grateful for having failed, that it's taught me compassion. It's taught me that the times where I can see myself in someone else, or where I can see someone's pain and I can identify with that, I can say, I was once there. I know what you're going through. So any person who has never failed will
not get that.
Will never get it. And I'll tell you a short story. It's a story of and you mentioned Jordan Peterson, but I am one person who loves the good book, and I draw a lot of meaning in that. And one of the big men that we look to is Christ. And when Christ was seated around the disciples, he was surrounded by these guys all seeing themselves as, we made it. We are seated with this big guy, Savior, and everyone is looking up to him. The guy is going around healing and performing miracles. But then this guy who is seated here, Christ, a young lady approaches him. And this lady, let's say, she's gone through her own life. She's had things that have not gone right. Who is seen as an outcast in society because of her maybe where life has taken her and failure in so many ways. But she comes and she breaks down at the feet of Christ, and she says, you are the only one who gets me. And all these disciples, these 12 men, are looking at Christ, and all these people are looking at Christ and like, how can such a holy man have anything to do with this lady? How can you even allow her to touch your feet? But he says, those who have never failed will never understand grace. And grace that I'm talking about is the grace to understand someone's pain, to extend a hand to those who are suffering, those who may not be as privileged as you. So one big lesson that I take out of that is that, it takes someone who has failed to see pain in other people, to reach out, to extend a helping hand. So that's one, maybe second, a benefit of failure, that it teaches you that, I've been around also homeless people. And there's one thing that I love about they have love for each other.
Yep.
I went around distributing socks, and we had a lot of socks on us, and we were distributing it because of the cold weather. Yep. And as we were distributing, I forgot that I had given this guy socks already. So I was handing him over another pair. And he said, hey man, I got one already. I just need one. Give give it to those who may need it. Though another person may need it. He's able to say that because he identifies with the cold. He knows what it means to have nothing. And then soon, before long, we ran out of socks. And another guy comes approaching him like, I missed out. Do you have anything left? And we're like, we don't have any. But the guy took the one we had given him and he gave it to the other guy.
Yeah.
That for me was an emblem of compassion, an emblem of that he's so much identified with the other guy's pain. And that's what failure allows you to do.
Absolutely,
and unfortunately, we are missing out on that. Yeah.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. And that reminded me of a very similar story I'll get into. But the first point with regards to the story that you were giving of Christ and just the fact that failure leads to compassion. I'm a poet, so I like to talk about a lot of things in metaphors. And when you're mentioning that, it seems like, when you go to fail, it's similar to a heartbreak. And now if you want to actually vividly imagine a heart having a break and tear into it, it seems that the way that it gets broken, if a similar means or a very close means, that tear allows some sort of force to go out through the same way. So if you have gone through something similar to me, you'll be able to see it in that direction. And I think that's where the hands of compassion can grab each other. And that's just kind of a nice piece that I just want to throw in there. But with regards to similar stories, I had the very same experience. We were I was a co-president of Golden Key. We had these downtown East Side sandwich runs for the individuals who are in Vancouver near the fall semester. So I think September, November, somewhere around there. And, we made we started with some cold cuts and soon realized that peanut butter jelly was the way to go. Not a fan of the cold cuts down there. They like their PB&J. So we switched up the next time. And when we did this, I met an individual named Daryl who was at the time, unfortunately, suffering from homelessness. And very same story, man. We're going out with a bunch of sandwiches and all that kind of stuff. And, hey, you want some? No, I'm good. I was like, why, man? Why not keep one for later? Oh, no, I already ate. There's other people that need some food. I'm like, But dude, listen to this. This is where it gets powerful. I get to chatting with Daryl and we spend like 15, 20 minutes and then we get to know each other. He's telling me, he used to have a house. Unfortunately, a divorce caused him to lose it. And, we got deep into this talk and we didn't meet each other for too long. This was maybe 10, 20 minutes tops. And then at the end of it, he's like, man, I want to be just like you guys one day. Man, dude, that hit me, bro. I had a full box, maybe, I don't know, 80 PB&J sandwiches, just like this wide. And when I'm doing like maybe half a shoulder span width of a box, just holding sandwiches. No hesitation, man. I give it to him. The guy's eyes lit up. So we go away, and then I'm just looking back. I look at Daryl, and this event, this is like 2-3 years ago, man. I still remember his name, Daryl. This was one of my first pictures on Instagram on my first account, and it was incredible. He was giving sandwiches to people who were tourists, who were not homeless. He was giving sandwiches to people who were tourists when he was suffering from homelessness. And man, that night, it really actually, this next bit actually really hurt me. Because when he was offering sandwiches to individuals who were tourists, the tourists were like making fun of him, like, what are you doing? All this kind of stuff. Man, that just infuriated me. And I think it comes back to the whole notion of, people that haven't gone through this level of failure, who haven't felt hunger, who haven't felt homelessness, who haven't felt isolation, who haven't felt deserted, who haven't felt the loss of a friend, who haven't felt isolated from society. Because a lot of people who are homeless, a lot of people are like, can I, like, how's it going? Or like, can I have money? And then people just shove them off. Not even hi. No, sorry, I can't do anything, but I hope you have a great day. They're not acknowledged as humans. The level of pain that gives to a person. And these people are just trying to connect, trying to help. And to get shoved off by an individual who doesn't need the food, and rather than saying, "Oh, thank you so much, but I'm okay. Thank you so much." That really changed me. And just as a quick closure, in case this goes viral or we get some hits, the individual's name was Daryl. I believe, I'm not sure if I wrote his last name in the Instagram post. I forgot the last name, but it's been a couple of years, so I think that's fair. But Daryl, he was into Aboriginal art, and that's what he was doing, and he wanted to get his craft there. So if it does blow up, and if we still can find Daryl in the downtown East Side region, it was near Lamplighter, the pub, and a very famous park. Actually, the one where Simon Fraser University threw a residence up. There's like a park right beside it. That's where we met Daryl. But I hope we can find Daryl, and I hope we can give him the opportunity to pursue his passion in this and give back to people, because what a beautiful character, man.
Mm-hmm.
What a beautiful character.
And only made possible by failure. And again, I want to put this again forward, that I don't want to romanticize, and we're not romanticizing a failure, because it's not fun, and we're not saying that people have to go through failure, but we are trying to pick up lessons from failure. I just wanted to put that out there, because there's nothing fun about poverty or hardship. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I mean, definitely nothing, but I think hardship definitely shapes an individual. I'm not sure if I used this analogy before, but hardship is like, I think I actually wrote a poem about this. That's why it's familiar. Hardship is like life's chisel. You know what I mean? And, you're a marble when you start out, you look pretty bland. No one really notices you. But when you go through hardship, it's like a chisel. Man, this microphone keeps falling. It's like a chisel that morphs you into art.
Right.
It's a Michelangelo statue, and you need it. You need it to become the beautiful piece of art that you are in life. And that's something that I wish a lot of people saw. And it isn't fun. But Joseph, man, like, let me ask you a question, man. Do you regret any of the hardships you went through?
I don't.
Same here, man. And the thing is, in that time, would I be wrong to say that you hated it? That it was the worst thing ever? That you just wanted out?
There's no failure that is fun.
At the time. That's the important part, right? It's like, failure is not fun at the time. But man, dude, it's kind of like you're paying interest on your happiness, like you're going through that tough spot, but you're getting like compound interest for 10%. 10% compound interest coming back to back to back to back. And it's something else, it's something that you can't expect at the time, but it really makes a big difference.
Right. Am I the only one, but are we losing out or something?
Yeah, I think I lost you for a second there. Did you lose me as well?
Yeah, I think it's might be the internet. Everyone is back home.
Everyone's back home, huh?
Everyone is
okay.
Back home. Yeah, but
that's okay. We'll see where she goes. Nope, there we lost you as well, Joseph. Let's see. Let me try to continue while you come back. So I think one thing that I just wanted to add before Joseph comes back is, how can I say this? Do we got you back, Joe?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Internet's not doing too good with you, Joe.
Can you hear me?
You're chopping out.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Let's see if we can get it going.
Okay.
Can you talk?
I can see you. I can hear you. Can you
Perfect.
see me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, man. So tell me, man, we're talking about the whole fact that we don't regret failure for happening.
Mm-hmm. Are you fine there?
I'm fine, man.
All right. Right. We are having our own failure here too.
Hey, man, we're having our own failure, man, but it made the joke. We'll see how it comes out, eh?
Right. It's tying in very well.
Some things just happen for a reason in life, right? And that's actually a good segue. That's an important thing that I think a lot of people don't appreciate about failure. And the one thing that I wish that I knew is that failure is an opportunity to reevaluate your current life. It's an opportunity to reevaluate if this is the right thing for you. Joe, I had the opportunity of talking with so many individuals, from individuals who are the chief marketing officer to individuals who, like Dr. John Rady from Harvard medical professor, left, right, and center, man. I've seen it across the board. And it seems like the individuals who are very content and in their own personal views, and even in the views of others, successful, are the people who've pivoted in their life, because oftentimes, an individual can go into a field. And I think for cooperative education, this is a huge pitch that they say, oh, you can go into a work site and there will be two options. Either you will love it, for one, or you will know that it's not the right fit for you. And this not the right fit for you is a very critical piece that I think a lot of people don't appreciate about life, because you only have one life to live. And as the party saying goes, YOLO. Oh man, I said that so weirdly. But it's like you only do have one life to live. It's that. And it's like, work and your job takes 40 hours a week on average. Do you want to do something that you don't enjoy? Do you want to, what's the word? Be trapped in a prison that you don't feel fulfilled? Or do you want to explore your avenues and do something you're passionate about, create an impact that's important to you, and make the world a better place in your own perspective? Because that's kind of what it's called, the personal process. Be successful in your own way. Because Joseph, I don't think that people are successful if they become a celebrity. I don't think they're successful if they hit 300K in income a year. Although that's great. Like, that's fantastic. Like, good on you. Props. I'll give you a fist bump. I'll give you actually post-COVID, once that becomes legal and all that, and we don't have to worry about getting ticketed for giving. I wonder if you can do like a kick bump with the shoes. I don't know. That's probably in the gray zone. Anyways, that's kind of just a little monologue going through my head. But it's understanding that through all of this, you understand who you are yourself. You understand what's important for you. An individual can be content with $30,000 living in an apartment, a studio apartment with like one other person, and they're living their dream. They're happy every day. They have a great relationship. They wake up every day not fatigued. They are content with the decisions they've made in life, because there's a lot of jobs where you have to make very harsh decisions, and whatever decision you make, it impacts a group. There is no right decision. It's which one sucks more. And that takes a toll on you mentally. You may be getting the big bucks, but as a result of the big bucks, you get that big toll on the mental. And, it's an important thing that I think a lot of people are slowly starting to discover, but I hope a lot more people do, because my perfect is not the same as your perfect, Joe. So yeah, man, what do you think about that?
Well, I like to look at things from even a higher level. If you connect failure to the way, again, I'm sorry, systems are organized.
My God.
That, it matters where you live, and it matters what kind of systems you're subjected to, what kind of structural factors you're subjected to. Here, a dollar might not mean anything. 2-bedroom, 2-apartment house, or having a car, and having given a day's meal may not count, because again, you're comparing yourself to someone who is maybe having a penthouse, and they have a dog, and they have a swimming pool in the backyard. They're able to afford a paid vacation and all that. That again is connected to the structural factor. Everything is relative, and poverty is relative, right? Here, a person who is poor, of course, in the West, there are a lot of poor people, very, very poor people. But for me, I think there are different levels of failure and different ways of attaching meaning to failure. In Uganda, where I come from, if someone has even some cattle or sheep in the house, in the backyard of their house, they have a tree that they can enjoy some mangoes and a good, beautiful sunset. It's beautiful. And as they live at peace, they're not up in the bustle and hustle of life. They are contented with even looking at the birds. They are one with nature. But here, unfortunately, and until even within Uganda, until they move to the city, and then they see the high rises, they see the beautiful lights, the nightlife, and all that, then they define failure differently. Right? Same here.
Right. Yeah, no, that's definitely true. Joseph's currently cut off on the mic right now, but it's very true. In different places of the world that you are in has different struggles. It has its benefits, it has its cons. But one thing that I've noticed is from a lot of countries that are in the third world, my own included, it's that a lot more people are content and a lot more people are connected. A lot more people are happy. Yeah, and we lost you there for a second, Joe, so I just filled in the gap there for you. But what were you mentioning at the last point?
Yes, I'm sorry about that. I'm really sorry about my internet. Talk about failure. the fact that we're even complaining about internet, But I think the other big factor to take into consideration when we're talking about failure is that how we define it and whatever meaning we attach to the failure that we face also somehow affects how we see ourselves in other people.
Hold up.
Yeah.
That's going to go down a very, very deep rabbit hole. Let's go into the attach meaning part of it only. And then we'll get into that part, okay? Because that's going to go like 2 steps deep. So that's very true about attaching meaning to failure, right? Because when you attach meaning to failure, it's like, I may have lost the game. Okay, opportunity to reflect. The other person might say, I'm a failure, I'm the worst person, and go down and cry. Or it's an opportunity to hustle, to show that you got good defense, like I was mentioning that original story. And this is a very important point. I was looking at a post by David Meltzer where an individual had to carry out the trash, and that was like his job. And David Meltzer is a business coach. He's a motivational speaker, and he's just a very positive individual who's trying to spread that around, kind of like Gary Vaynerchuk. But what I noticed about this post is there was 2 individuals carrying out the trash. The first one was mentioning that, oh man, I gotta tear out the trash. This is terrible. My life sucks. The other one was listening to tunes, jamming around, giving a little good dance. And he was saying, man, there's a great opportunity to reflect on what I've gone through in the day and the week and kind of see where I can pivot. And it's so often in life that people try to take this negative stance. And I think with that hustle culture that we have, like in the West, where everyone's just trying to get to the top, a lot of people can't get to the top. By definition, it's a pyramid, right? A lot of people are at the base, then we slowly get up and up and up and up. And there's one thing that my dad taught me is every single time there's someone ahead of you. There's, like in everything, you may be number one, even like Jeff Bezos. I think he's one of the richest man, if not the richest man. There's things that he lacks, man. Even though he's the richest man in the world, there's something that he compares to the other person. He's been getting his gym game on, so good on him. but there's someone else he's looking up to. He's like, man, why can't I get bigger than this guy? And maybe it's someone in the same financial domain. The point being is there's always something that can be better. But if we don't understand, what's the word? If we don't understand what our mission is in life and what we want to gain out of it and the sacrifices that we want to do to attain our perfect, not the world's perfect, not the societal perfect, and everything else that we were talking about on the systems level with Joseph, it's very easy to be content. You know?
Yeah,
And
because it's easy to be content because, again, meaning. A friend of mine, Ahmed Lelama, we talk so much about meaning and mapping meaning. What kind of meaning are you attaching to your circumstances and whatever life throws at you? But a significant reminder about failure is that, we have to also remember that, as you say, not everyone makes it up to the top, and how we even define the top matters. Because if I define my top in a way that excludes me from the other people, the 50% of the population, yes, you may garner success, but it's really isolating, right? It's very alienating, right? And so there's something about failure that you are human. You're human. You're in the average population, and it's okay. But you mentioned something very significant, that how we also define failure is shaped by the meaning or purpose that we are shaping, we want for ourselves.
For sure.
So my purpose might be to, I may be wanting to go to grad school because I have a particular goal I want to achieve. But if you are comparing yourself to me, who is going to grad school, and you think for me grad school was just the ultimate end, you're making a mistake. Because for me, grad school was up to a certain end, right? And you compare yourself to me, or you're trying to compete with me, and you don't know what my pathway is, what my meaning in life is, or what my purpose of even going to grad school is. So I think it's important for, even as individuals, and I have to remind myself always that I should never ask for anyone's shoes, because I don't know what they are going through. I don't know what journey they've set out for themselves. And unfortunately, with social media and so much of what we get on our phones and our boxes, is that we want lives, we get snapshots of lives of individuals that we don't even know what what their struggle is, what their purpose is. And so I think as individuals, that as you're looking at your failure or other people's success, it's always important to remember that individuals have different understanding of success, different understanding of failure, and different purposes altogether, right? You may want to make $100 billion, but
pretty
if
ambitious.
you make that your goal, you may fail. You may make $100 billion, but you're failing because the person that you...
I think we lost Joe again. I think the person we're aspiring to be is one level higher than the 100 billion. Hopefully Joe gets back so we can finish this awesome segment. Okay, Joe cuts back. So if you make 100 billion, you cut off there, man. Man, we talking about failure. We talking about failure on the internet, eh?
So I'll make this quick before I go out again, and maybe we can even cut it short so that it doesn't keep cutting off. But if I don't know what Jeff Bezos, for example, is going to be using that money for,
Mm.
and I'm just competing just to make the same money as him, I might get the same money that he has, but I'll be failing because I don't know what to do with that money.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you
So
touch good.
no. I think I'm done. Yeah.
All right, man. I think I'm done. I love it. And it's very true. Oftentimes with social media and having a very broad view of what success is, because that's kind of ingrained in our culture, right? You get a fancy car, you get a big house, you have a big job, you got like 2 to 3 kids. You send them to a good school, and they become successful, and you go to vacation once a year. Like, these are the typical stereotypical things that media has been feeding us through movies, through newscasts, through celebrity status. And unfortunately, that's not the case. Everyone's unique. Everyone has their own potion. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people, they focus on, especially if they're jealous or they want to get to another person's goal because they feel that maybe that person isn't deserving of it, or maybe I deserve it because I don't know, I have a good mustache that I recently learned how to make that like loopy mustache. I don't know if I can get it right now on screen, but maybe this guy has like a loopy mustache and like he's very amazing and I'm really jealous of him. So, I'm going to try to get his goal. But when we do that, we kind of bring ourselves down. We lose our own path, and we can't accomplish as much good things as we want for our own life. And I think one analogy that I want to give a shout out to is to the great Tony Leyland of Simon Fraser University's BPK department, and that is the biomedical physiology and kinesiology department. He is one of the main faces for the individuals, at least in my era, who went to kinesiology. He's very loud. He is very sporty. He loves running. He loves exercise. He loves fitness. And, the one thing that he taught me in his upper level class was that, specialized athletes, they can get immensely good at one thing, that a point that no one else can return. We're talking about the pyramid that we were talking about before, but why not focus on a more of a general conditioning where you can get to the up to 50, 60, 70% and have it even, have a more holistic life, have a family life, get money, have a nice rewarding job, have time to spend with your family, your kids, or anything like your hobbies. Why isn't that being pushed by the media? And it's something that I think a lot of people should consider, and maybe not having a perfect 70%, because maybe Joseph realizes that advocacy is something that he wants to make an impact on the world, and he can spend more time on that. Maybe for me, it's speaking. Maybe for me, it's helping other individuals realize their own potential in life. You get the idea that I'm trying to throw around here. But until we understand who we are through failure, until we go from the mountains to the valley. And I think that's one thing that I'm going to mention here, Joe. And I think we might go into a close after your thoughts on this. But, I think often in life, the biggest gift we can get is being figuratively and metaphorically, not literally, thrown off that valley thrown off that mountain into the valley, and reflect on who we are as a person, reflect on how we can reach our own banana tree and get the sweet fruits, which is our attributes, to share with the world, and really connect with others through the pain and suffering of failure.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. What do you think, man?
I think you made the summary.
Oh, man.
You put together the summary of the show, and that's a good abstract too.
Should we publish on Nature or what? What are you thinking?
Let's do it.
Oh, man. Did you have any thoughts on that, or?
Well, just closing, I think, so failure helps us, or is a humbling factor, number one. Two, failure allows you to see other people's pain and to relate to others, which is very limited these days. A lot of people cannot relate to other people. And narcissism is on the rise. Everyone wants to see me, look at me, look at what I've done. And we are losing out on that because, again, people are not embracing their failure. We're not appreciating seasons, as I would like to call it. But in closing, I think it's also important to look at the structural factors that shape failure. We're not aloof to that. So even as we are trying to, individuals try to map out their journeys, it is important that we reflect on the structural systemic factors that shape failure. For me, that is an important thing to put out there, because if you are born in a family where your father has never been to school, you're the only one who's gone to school, your failure and whatever you're going to encounter is going to be different to the person whose entire family has gone to school, or they've gone to Ivy Leagues and all that. So I think it's important to put that out there, that it is sad and it should not be that way. We should all have a leveled playing field that allows us to live harmoniously. And so that's why I call into question, if you allow, how we even define success. I want to redefine success again in a way that is healthy. So for me, success to me is, if I achieve something, I remember that I did not do this by myself. I had a whole village that partook in that, and I become my failure. My success does not separate me from other people's failure, right? But so I think we have to call into question how we define success, and I'm very, very wary or cautionary of the big penthouses and defining success like that, because it really separates individuals and humans from the natural world, from the natural ideals of grace, of peace, of harmony. Because yes, you may build that penthouse, you may be working so hard to get $100 million, but is that realistic? Is that human? Should any one individual have so much compared to another individual? So I have to just put it out there that it's also important how we define success. And I define success, if you allow me, as anything that allows you to be in one with the people that are around you. And two, success, I define it as achieving kind of a holistic or wholeness with nature, with God, with life, with people. That's why, I love failure and I love success as well. But yeah, failure, if we embrace it, it can bring the best out of us, and it can also, most importantly, make us humble and keep us calm. Yeah,
absolutely. Joseph, you gotta stop giving fire when I ask you for a conclusion, my man. You give too many good points. I gotta talk on it now. But two things I wanted to mention. The first one was you were mentioning with the Instagram generation, and I like to use that too. And it's not even Instagram generation; it's just a culture now. Like you see a lot of individuals on it from various age groups that they just push out success as like the penthouse, XYZ. But and you mentioned a key word, look at me. But the thing is, when you look at a person, kind of bringing it back to what you were mentioning earlier, you just look at them and that's all you get. But you lose out on the ability to feel that person when you're that distant away. And when I say feel, I don't mean a physical touch. I mean just that connection you can get when someone's had a lived experience, when that person sees another person going through that. And these type of connections, in my opinion, are, and I think both of ours, based on the fact that you judge your success by your accomplishments, but also the community's involvement in them. It's one of the most pivotal and most important things. And I think with regards to failure, it's very relative. And I love the fact that you gave the whole societal context and systemic roots of that too, because, you can't put yourself on the same path as me or as you or as anyone else. Everyone has differences in life, from advantages to disadvantages. And, it's doing yourself a disservice. Compare yourself to the person you were yesterday. Go forward. Choose your success. Don't get mixed up in the general mix of everyone going for that penthouse, because that penthouse may not be what you even want. You might want to go on the countryside with a couple of acres, some lovely animals. A lot of people are doing that in Italy now. And it's your success. So Joseph, let's give one quick conclusion without as much fire, so I don't feel the inclination to comment on it, and we'll hit our outro.
I am grateful again to you, sir. Thank you for the nice conversation. I really learned a lot from you, and for doing this. I think it allows people to feel, not see. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful to the journey that I've been on, and I wish people the best on whatever journey you are on. Define it for yourself, but remember, to always connect to a higher one who reminds you that life at the end of the day is about the people that we surround ourselves with, and how we relate with them. So life is really about relationship and not so much about success, the way the world defines it.
Very much agreed. Yeah. Relationships are definitely the way to go. And thankfully, that was just below the threshold of feeling inclined to comment on it. So with that said, thank you, Joseph, for coming on to another episode. Had a lot of fun chatting with you, learning from you as well. And I think, we talked about a subject that was very near and dear to my heart that I don't think gets talked about enough. I hope the listeners feel compelled to chase their success, however it may look, to embrace their failure and understand it's a normal part of their personal season, as my friend Joseph once said, and to honestly make it a more open topic. If you're going through failure, man, I'll say this last bit. You'd be surprised on how much you can connect with someone by just telling them about it. The bond you can make by sharing your failure with another person opens them up to share the same thing with you, and that connection that you forge.
Very
powerful true. Powerful stuff. So that's one thing that I wish we actually talked about more, but I think that summarizes it pretty well. Mm-hmm. I think we'll hit the close. Thank you for watching and listening to another episode of the Personal Process Podcast. Thank you to Joseph for coming on to another episode. And if you like episodes like this, where we dive into a topic, discuss our thoughts, give anecdotes, stories, and I make some funny jokes in my own opinion. Maybe some people don't like it, but let me know. Remember to leave a review, like the video if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment, and most importantly, tell your friends. And with that said, Joe, I think we'll go on to our outro. Signing off.
Thanks.
Hey, everyone. I'm back after another amazing episode with another amazing guest. We hope we added value into your life so you could take the tips from this episode and fuel your process forward. If you enjoyed our episode today and think other friends or family members may also appreciate the lessons that our podcast brings, be sure to share us with them. Subscribe and rate our show so we know how we did. And always remember, trust the process.